There is a moment, quiet, immediate, and impossible to ignore, when you enter a space and the atmosphere subtly shifts. Conversations hesitate, eyes lift without permission. You feel it before you understand it, a silent awareness pressing in from every direction. Before words are spoken, before eye contact is acknowledged, before anyone consciously decides how they feel about you, something has already been recognized. It happens the instant you arrive. Heads lift, conversations slow, eyes linger longer than they should, and even if no one says anything, you feel it. You are being noticed. This is not imagination, ego, or coincidence. People stare because something about you disrupts the emotional equilibrium of the room. You carry a presence that cannot be ignored, and the human nervous system is wired to respond to what feels different, unfamiliar, or powerful. Staring is not always admiration, and it is not always judgment. It is recognition without understanding. Most people move through life energetically invisible. They blend into routines, emotional patterns, and social expectations. When someone enters who does not blend, who carries clarity, restraint, self-possession, or inner authority, it triggers unconscious attention. People stare because your presence contrasts with theirs. You may not be loud, you may not be flashy, you may not be seeking attention at all. Yet something about your stillness, posture, or composure signals self-definition, and the human psyche is magnetically drawn to what it lacks. Staring becomes a silent question. Why do they feel so grounded while I feel unsettled? There is also a deeper layer most people never talk about. Humans are emotional mirrors. When someone stares at you, they are often confronting themselves. Your presence reflects possibilities they abandoned, confidence they suppressed, or boundaries they never learned to set. This is why the stare sometimes feels heavy instead of flattering. It carries projection. You are not being observed, you are being measured against an internal story they tell themselves about who they should have been. The eyes linger because the mind is trying to reconcile discomfort it cannot name. People also stare when they cannot read you. In a world addicted to emotional transparency, unpredictability creates tension. When your energy is calm, self-contained, and unreactive, it denies others the feedback they unconsciously expect. They look again, searching for cues: approval, insecurity, submission, availability. When they don't find them, curiosity turns into fixation. The stare becomes longer because your silence refuses to explain itself. You are not performing, and that unsettles those who rely on performance to feel safe. So if you've ever felt eyes follow you without reason, understand this. People stare when your presence speaks before your mouth does. They stare when your energy contradicts their assumptions. They stare when you remind them without trying of something they lost, suppressed, or never developed. People stare because energy always communicates first, long before words, style, or behavior are processed. The nervous system reads emotional frequency. When you walk into a space with emotional regulation, self-containment, and inner calm, it sends a silent signal that you are not easily influenced. Most people operate from reactive energy, constantly adjusting themselves to be accepted, liked, or safe. When someone encounters a person who is centered within themselves, it disrupts that pattern. The stare is not conscious curiosity, it is the body trying to understand why you feel steady in a world that teaches constant emotional motion. There is a specific quality that draws attention without effort: coherence. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions align. You do not leak insecurity through micro-expressions or nervous habits. You do not over-explain, over-apologize, or over-perform. This coherence creates psychological gravity. People look because their systems recognize stability as rare. They may not admire it openly, but they sense it instinctively. And when stability appears in human form, it stands out far more than chaos ever could. Another reason people stare is because you are emotionally unavailable to manipulation. You are present, but not porous, observant, but not reactive. This unsettles those who rely on emotional leverage to navigate relationships. They look again, trying to assess where they stand with you, whether you can be influenced, impressed, or intimidated. Your refusal to broadcast your inner world leaves them without a map. The stare becomes an attempt to read what you are not offering. Many people confuse attention with validation, but the kind of attention you receive through staring is different. It is diagnostic. People are unconsciously scanning for cues. Are you dominant or submissive, safe or threatening, familiar or foreign? When you do not fit neatly into their internal categories, their gaze lingers. You disrupt their mental shortcuts, and the brain dislikes unresolved data, so it looks again, hoping clarity will arrive. There is also an unspoken truth. People stare when your self-respect is visible. Self-respect changes posture, pacing, eye contact, and silence. It shows in how you take up space without apology. You do not rush to be included, and you do not shrink to avoid attention. This balance is uncommon. Most people either chase visibility or hide from it. When you do neither, you become noticeable by contrast. People stare because silence disrupts social expectations. Most environments are built on noise, verbal reassurance, constant explanation, emotional broadcasting. When you remain quiet without appearing insecure, the mind of others becomes unsettled. Silence rooted in confidence feels intentional, and intentional silence creates tension because it removes predictability. People look at you longer because they are trying to decode meaning where none is being offered. Unspoken restraint communicates power. When you do not rush to fill space with words, you demonstrate that you are not dependent on reaction or validation. This triggers curiosity and discomfort at the same time. Many people speak to anchor themselves socially. You remain still, anchored internally. That contrast pulls attention. The stare is an unconscious acknowledgement that you are operating from a different internal framework. Silence also creates projection. When you do not explain yourself, others begin to fill in the blanks. Their assumptions say more about them than about you. Some project confidence, others arrogance, others mystery, others threat. This mental activity keeps their attention locked on you. They stare because their mind is busy writing stories in the absence of information. There is a psychological principle at play. The human brain seeks closure. When it doesn't get it, it loops. Your quiet presence creates an open loop. People glance, then glance again, hoping for a signal that resolves uncertainty. But you offer none. You remain composed, emotionally neutral, self-contained. This unresolved dynamic sustains attention far longer than any dramatic behavior ever could. Many people are uncomfortable around those who do not overshare. Oversharing creates familiarity, creates control. When you keep your inner world private, you deny others emotional leverage. They cannot categorize you easily. They cannot predict how you'll respond. This unpredictability does not feel chaotic, it feels controlled. And controlled unpredictability is one of the strongest attention triggers in human psychology. Your silence may also signal discernment. You observe before you engage. You listen without immediately revealing opinion. This communicates depth. People stare because depth is rare in a culture trained for immediacy. They sense that you are selective with words, energy, and attention, and selectivity implies value. People stare because boundaries can be felt before they are spoken. You don't need to announce limits for them to be noticed. They show in your posture, your pacing, your eye contact, and your refusal to overextend yourself. Many people operate with porous boundaries, emotionally available to everyone and drained by anything. When someone appears with clear internal limits, it sends a signal of self-ownership. Visible boundaries communicate that you do not need permission to protect your energy. This unsettles people who rely on access to feel significant. When you do not lean in too quickly or emotionally merge, it forces others to adjust. They look longer because they are recalibrating how to interact with you. Your presence requires respect without demanding it. Boundaries also expose imbalance. When someone without self-regulation encounters someone who is self-contained, contrast becomes undeniable. They may feel drawn, irritated, challenged, or intimidated, but rarely indifferent. Staring is the body's way of processing that contrast. There is a protective quality to your energy. You do not invite chaos, drama, or emotional dumping. This is felt instantly. People who thrive on emotional extraction notice the closed loop. They look again, assessing whether entry is possible. Your lack of openness to unnecessary exchange creates a subtle force field. Healthy boundaries create distance without hostility. You are not cold, you are selective. You are not distant, you are intentional. When people encounter someone who embodies boundaries with calm confidence, it challenges their understanding of connection. They stare because they are witnessing a form of self-respect they were never taught. People also stare because your confidence is quiet. It doesn't announce itself or seek agreement. In a world trained to equate confidence with volume or display, your calm self-assurance feels unfamiliar. You are not trying to be seen, yet you are seen. Most confidence today is performative. Yours is not. You move with ease because you are not monitoring how you're being perceived. This freedom shows. People stare because they sense autonomy, and autonomy signals inner security. There is an absence of need in your presence. Need is loud. When people don't sense need in you, they become curious. They look again, searching for emotional hooks, and find none. Confidence without performance also disrupts hierarchy. You don't compete for attention, yet you receive it. You don't assert dominance, yet you hold presence. This creates cognitive dissonance. Your confidence creates emotional safety. You are comfortable within yourself, which allows others to feel either drawn or exposed. Some stare because they feel calm around you. Others stare because your groundedness highlights their chaos. People stare because your presence activates emotions they thought were settled. When someone encounters a person who is self-directed and inwardly complete, it brings old internal conflicts to the surface. The stare is about what rises in them, not what you provoke. Your presence reminds people of paths they didn't take and courage they postponed. This recognition happens beneath conscious thought. The eyes linger because the mind is processing an emotion it didn't plan to face. Some stares carry admiration mixed with grief, others carry resentment mixed with curiosity. Both come from awareness disrupts avoidance. This is why some people feel drawn to you while others feel threatened. You don't push or judge, yet your presence highlights incongruence. The stare becomes a safe distance from self-examination. When people stare, the instinct is often to shrink, but the presence that draws stares is not something to reduce, it is something to carry. Weakening it to make others comfortable costs far more than approval is worth. Dimming yourself never resolves discomfort, it relocates it. The stares may lessen, but so will your alignment. And alignment is what keeps your nervous system calm and your boundaries strong. There is discipline in remaining yourself under observation. You do not owe accessibility or explanation. The stare is not a summons, it is a response. When you allow people to stare without changing your pace or expression, attention resolves itself. Presence filters people naturally. At some point you stop asking why people stare and start understanding how to move without responding to it. You walk without adjusting yourself to the room. The stare loses power the moment you stop assigning meaning to it. Carrying this presence does not mean becoming hardened. It means becoming rooted. You remain warm without being porous, open without being exposed. There is a calm authority in knowing who you are without declaring it. You let reality reveal itself over time, protecting your energy. Eventually the stare transforms into respect, curiosity, or distance. All outcomes are acceptable because your sense of self no longer depends on external orientation. So if people stare at you, let them. It means you are aligned, contained, and awake. You are present fully, quietly, unmistakably. And that kind of presence will always be noticed, not because it asks to be seen, but because it refuses to disappear.